All right, so you think you know your NBA, huh? Well, tonight we're going to look at a couple of matchups that might just make you rethink your betting strategy.
Yeah, we've got some interesting games on tap. Ones that on the surface might not seem like much, but if you look closely,
They could pay off big time for the folks at home. We're talking those under-the-radar opportunities, the ones that separate the casual fans from the, well,
the sharp betters.
exactly. And first up, we're heading out west for a showdown in Portland. Spurs versus Blazers.
Right off the bat, this one's kind of a head scratcher. You've got two teams that, statistically speaking, are having some real trouble lighting up the scoreboard.
Yeah, the Spurs in particular, they're really struggling to consistently hit that 110-point mark. And the Blazers, well, let's just say their road game performances haven't exactly been inspiring.
See, when you dive into the numbers, you'll notice that both these teams are ranked pretty low in offensive rating. The Spurs are sitting at 25th, and the Blazers are even further down at 27th.
So you're probably not going to see a lot of fireworks in this one, right?
Probably not. And it's not like they're going to make up for it with some crazy fast-paced game either.
Yeah, their pace is down there in the bottom third of the league, too, both of them.
Precisely. I mean, you look at the Blazers, they're actually dead last in fast break points. And the Spurs, they're playing their second game in a back-to-back situation.
Which you got to figure is going to have some impact on their tempo.
Absolutely. Now, here's where things get interesting, especially if you're thinking about betting on the under. Both teams are actually pretty darn good defensively, particularly when it comes to protecting the paint.
It's true. The Blazers, they give up the fewest paint points in the whole league. And the Spurs, they're not far behind, ranked sixth.
Right. And then you factor in the fact that neither team is shooting lights out from three-point land.
It all kind of points to a slow-paced, low-scoring, kind of grinded out affair, you know?
Yep, definitely leaning that way.
Okay, so let's switch gears now and head over to Salt Lake City for a matchup that honestly has a lot of people scratching their heads. Jazz versus the Bucks.
This one's a puzzler. You got two teams with championship aspirations who, at least so far, have been racking up more L's than anyone expected.
Yeah, the Jazz, I mean, they just dropped 135 points on the Bulls the other night, but then you look at their overall record.
And you got to consider that Lauri Markkanen might be playing hurt. His back's been acting up, and if he's not 100%, well, that's a big chunk of their offense right there.
And then you got the Bucks. They're riding a 6-game losing streak, and their coach is out there saying he's not even worried about their playoff chances.
I don't know about that. Sounds like maybe a little bit of whistling past the graveyard to me.
Could be. But the big question mark here, of course, is Giannis.
Yeah, if he's back in the lineup, that changes everything. But even with Giannis, the Bucks historically haven't had much success against the Jazz. They've lost, 14 out of their last 20 meetings?
That's a lot of losses. And stylistically, these two teams are like night and day. You got the Jazz, fifth fastest offense in the league, and then the Bucks who, well, they like to play at a bit more of a deliberate pace.
Eighth in pace, to be exact. But the real concern for the Bucks is on the other end of the court. Defensively, they're just not getting it done.
21st in defensive rating, that's got to be a red flag.
No doubt about it. And when you combine that with the Jazz's potential firepower, even if Markkanen's not at his best, you got to think this one's going to be a high-scoring game.
All right, so let's get down to brass tacks here. What are your predictions for these two potentially lucrative matchups?
Okay, so for the Spurs and the Blazers, I'm going to go with the under. 218 points just feels a little too high given their offensive struggles and their emphasis on defense. And for the Jazz and the Bucks, I'm liking the over. That 230-point line just seems a bit too low, considering the Bucks' defensive woes and the Jazz's ability to put up points in a hurry.
Some bold calls there. I like it. And for our listeners at home, if you want even more in-depth analysis and predictions, make sure to subscribe to Smart Fix Network over on YouTube. Oh, and one last thing before we go, something to chew on. Think about the Bucks and their struggles against the Jazz. Is it just a bad matchup for them, or is there something deeper, a flaw in their system maybe, that the Jazz are able to exploit? Let us know your thoughts. We'll catch you next time for our next breakdown.